Welcome.
Welcome.
Welcome to First Parish, Unitarian Universalists of Arlington.
We choose.
We choose.
We choose to be
A liberal religious community.
Welcoming.
Welcoming to all.
We encourage each other
on our spiritual journeys.
Support one another
through the changes in our lives.
And challenge the excesses
and injustices of our time.
Called to love.
To love.
To love.
And upheld by joy.
We live our faith.
I invite us now to take a posture of prayer. Maybe take a deep breath or soften your gaze. Spirit of life, be with us. Be with us as a source of comfort, just as the snow this morning hugs the ground and the heavy tree limbs. Spirit of love, be with us in our breath, in our wandering thoughts. Guide us back to ourselves and to that which matters most. This is a prayer of wonder, of radical amazement. It's been waiting its turn, waiting to arrive, waiting to be seen, even as it arrives in the mists of despair. This prayer of wonder wants to delight you. Can you see it? This prayer appears in the wide eyes of children on Christmas morning. It appears in candles that remain lit in improbable times. It arrives in the rising sun, majestic rays hitting the snow-covered trees, just so. This prayer arises in the oven with an imperfect yet delicious loaf of bread, a sacred science that persists even among the most confounded bakers. Wonder has been waiting. It understands that grief and fear and stress pull at us. There are unexpected illnesses or old tensions at home. There's the heartache of the news, our hearts breaking, learning of violence that rips into spaces meant to be safe. Spaces of learning or celebration. May a love hold all those in harm's way. this prayer of wonder sometimes startles us. It arrives on a hard day when a stranger lingers to help us, or a friend has $10 to spare, or when we learn of butterflies and imaginal cells, of stars and deep-sea creatures, of goo that becomes wings. Spirit of life, help us to marvel, to notice wonder, to consider what is possible despite it all. May we dwell in the wonderful wondrousness of this season. May we linger in 2 minutes of shared silence.
Last week, Music Sunday, several people shared about their experiences and their memories of certain Christmas carols, perhaps, that bring back fondness or some kind of positive feeling attached. This week, being the Scrooge that I am, I'm going to bring in a problematic Christmas carol that I will dissect, and by the end of my sermon, you will hate this Christmas carol. And I'm going to take a cue from Daniel and start out by humming this tune, and I'm going to have you finish it. Gonna find out who's naughty or nice. Why is that song so awful, you may ask? Well, for me, any song that has a binary attached to it, forcing me to choose between naughty or nice, is problematic, because that's not in alignment with my theology. And the second thing that's theologically problematic is attaching good and bad and reward and punishment to certain types of behavior, right? Because notice that if you are quote-unquote nice, Santa will bring you lots of presents. But if you're naughty, then guess what happens? You get a lump of coal for Christmas, right? Or I was talking to a congregant this past week who said she was raised in a secular household. And the parents' threat, if they were naughty, was they were going to get a Bible for Christmas in their stocking. So it makes me question, what does it take to be nice? And what does it mean to be nice? I could go on about naughty all day long, right? And I too find problematic that the only definition of naughty is crying or pouting. But crying isn't that bad, as we're finding out recently. It helps release our emotions, and it helps, I see the psychologist nodding here. It helps increase our emotional intelligence. So we should be teaching our kids that crying is okay. And I get that this song is really meant to keep our kids in line, right? That during the holidays, you're not supposed to cry, you're not supposed to pout, you're just supposed to behave. So over the years, I've internalized that message, and every single Christmas, I try to be nice. And by being nice, I mean that when I open up a present I don't really like, I don't say anything about it. I just say thank you and smile and accept the present, right? And over the years, that's grown into whenever, speaking of lists, right, a naughty and nice list, whenever it comes time to figure out who to invite to our Christmas party and invite to our home, I try to be nice by inviting even those relatives that I find problematic. and those relatives with political views that I don't support. After all, being polite means you don't talk about religion and politics. As a Unitarian Universalist minister, the question then becomes, what the hell do I talk about? Right? So I bet many of you have had this quandary as well, but yet there's this urge and drive to be a people pleaser and to be inclusive and to accept just about every single person on the planet and try to fit them into our homes and trying to feed them with the kind of meal that they would like. Which means I have to be mindful of those who have gluten allergies and dairy allergies and sodium allergies and vegans, right? The list goes on and on. And I just heard a couple of months ago with someone's Thanksgiving party, with the vegans, some people don't even like eggplants because of the texture. So what do you do with that, right? You try to accommodate, you try to people please, you try not to offend anybody. Is that the definition of being nice? And yet, what's the impact I felt out of that capacity of being nice? I've noticed that over the years, I have gotten sick during the holidays. It's like clockwork. You know, I get a cold, I get a fever, I just get all out sick because of the stress of the holiday season and my wanting to be nice during the holiday season. And what happens as a result is I get resentful because I feel like this whole gift-giving thing, for example, is like giving gifts even if I don't want to, right? And the resentment just goes underground, and it actually, over the years, just drives a deeper wedge between me and my friends and my family. And it has, I kid you not, an emotional and spiritual toll as well. So it's not just physical, but it goes much, much deeper than that. All because society expects us to be nice. Well, if you don't like my personal Christmas story, I have another sermon illustration for you. And this has to do with the movie recently that was based on a musical that was based on a book called Wicked. And let me share with you, that is my absolute favorite musical. So I subject every single one of my congregations to a sermon that has an illustration about Wicked. So congratulations, this is part 1 of 10. And I'm not going to ask for a show of hands to see if any of you have seen the movie or not, because I'm not going to shame those who have not. And I will, however, revoke your gay card if you haven't seen it, because remember what I said the gay agenda was? Number 2 was watch as many musicals as possible, right? And I'm certainly not going to shame you straight people, other than to say some of my best friends are straight, and even the men like musicals too. And they've probably seen Wicked as well, right? And to my straight congregants here and on Zoom, God loves you just the way you are. All right, having said that, those of you who have seen Wicked may remember a character called Glinda initially, who then had a name change to Glinda, right? She's this very vibrant, chipper individual, you know, who's the life of the party and is beloved by all, right? And the second part of the story really hones in on the kind of pressure it takes for someone to be nice all the time. And her definition of nice, by the way, is giving someone a makeover even if they didn't ask for it or even if they don't need it, right? Okay, have you seen that movie? Do you know what the reference to that is? Anyway, all this work towards being nice is to gain popularity so that she could become popular, right? That somehow that is the most, that is, and I question, is that what we're going after, or is that the highest epitome of virtue in life, right? And maybe it is in Oz, that being nice and being popular is equated with being good, which is why Glinda eventually ends up being the good witch, right? And yet, one of the new songs that they added in the second movie, Wicked for Good, is a song called Girl in the Bubble. And I'm going to read to you a few lines from that. I haven't quite memorized it because it's a new song. Look, there's that beautiful girl with a beautiful life. Such a beautiful life built on lies. Because that's all that's required to live in a dream is endlessly closing your eyes. Ah, but the truth has a way of seeping on in beneath the surface and sheen, and blind as you try to be, eventually it's hard to unsee what you've seen. And so that beautiful girl with a beautiful life has a question that haunts her somehow. If she comes down from the sky, gives the real world a try, who in the world is she now? Not to be a spoiler, but at the end of the movie, there was a tangible cost for her being nice and being good, which is to lose the one best friend that she had and to be trapped in her bubble. So it brings up a good question of who's really the one who's trapped and who's free and liberated, who's good, who's bad, who's naughty or nice, who's good or who is wicked, right? And by the way, you New Englanders might have noticed that that word is a positive adverb here, right? Isn't there a good way to flip that narrative around? Like the highest compliment you could ever give someone is that they are wicked smart, you know? And speaking of regional variances, that also made me wonder, and if anybody at some point will come up with a list of the different regional niceness, like have a column of Oz nice, Midwest nice, Canadian nice, eh? By the way, I lived in Canada for a year, and I found out about what Canadian nice looks like. Because a colleague, a UU colleague, Canadian colleague of mine wrote me a welcome card when I first got there and said, by the way, ask me about the 7 to 11 ways that Canadians say sorry. Am I pronouncing that right, by the way? And, you know, there's different meanings to sorry. So being nice is being overly apologetic, as if you have to apologize for your very own existence, or apologize for being under the shadow of the United States, right? Which is probably why it took forever for Canadians to fight back. It took a threat of a 25% tariff for them to fight back, it was worse, slapping that tariff on them was worse than insulting their hockey teams. You know, so is that what it takes to be nice? And what are the various definitions of nice? Is there such a thing, by the way, I'm new to this area, right? So is there such a thing as New England nice? I heard, for example, that our forebears, the Puritans, thought that it was a sin to grieve, that it's wrong to grieve. Or is there this feeling maybe of no matter what happens to you, just keep a stiff upper lip, right? Or let's not talk about anything negative, because we've all heard that saying, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all, right? And is there a feeling too of, well, if there's conflict, just let it go and don't even talk about it and let it fester, because nice people don't engage with conflict? I don't know. Again, maybe when someone puts up that list, I'm happy to read it, but I just don't have time to come up and collate that list together at the moment. But it makes me wonder, what is the cost of it? And I must say that at this point, you're probably thinking to yourself, oh my gosh, Reverend Jonipher, are you suggesting then that we not be nice and be a jerk and be rude to people, right? Or flip each other off when we're angry, or what are you suggesting here? Well, let me just say that after the pandemic lockdown, there was actually some relief around the holidays. And that's when I started switching my mentality and my engagement with the holidays, instead of just this annual ritual that I go through every year of getting sick and then having to put up with, family and friends, and go to parties that I don't really want to go to, because there were no parties, right? Maybe Zoom parties, but at least it's not like I had to cook food for them and go through my list of what food groups to eliminate. So I had this opportunity to take a look at what really brings me joy and whose company I really enjoy. So moving forward, I started turning invitations down and just saying no. Or if I were to host it myself, I really wanted to invite the people that I wanted to invite. And it's even down to the Christmas tree, right? And how political that was and how fraught that was before. Because my ex had to be the one to pick out the tree, and it had to be live, and it had to be a certain height, and the Christmas ornaments had to be a certain way, and on it goes. But these days, I'm gonna buy whatever the heck Christmas tree I wanna buy, and I'm gonna decorate it with ornaments that bring me joy and that has special meaning for me. And so I took my own agency back by not being nice. And I took the thing of nothing has to be completely perfect, but not everybody needs to like me, right? Because guess what? Dr. Assis Gazipura, in his book, Not Nice, with another long-ass subtitle that I can't even memorize, said that when you are in a room of 100 people, for example, guess how many are gonna like you versus how many are not gonna like you. Well, you can't possibly guess that, because in many ways it's contextual. But he just threw out the number of 62%. Kind of as a tongue-in-cheek thing, right? Because there's really no way, but his point is that there's always gonna be a number of people who are not gonna like you, or are not gonna like what you have to stand for, or what you have to say, or what your political leanings are, or what your theological views are gonna be about. You're gonna win some, you're gonna lose some. So it took me a long time to figure out that that's not really what I'm aiming for. And out of that experience, I came out as no more Mr. Nice Gay, right? It's like, I'm just gonna be true and authentic to myself, and I'm not gonna be mean, I'm not gonna be cruel, but I'm just gonna have better boundaries for myself. And that actually includes my own family as well, and how long I spend with them, and what kind of gifts I give them, and being able to articulate how I really feel. So, there you have it, a sermon about being not nice this holiday season. I pray that moving forward, you could also liberate yourself from this nice straitjacket. Because guess what? no one's putting that straitjacket on for you. You're doing it to yourself, right? So resist the temptation to try to please everybody, and resist the temptation of this binary. Because again, some of you may say, oh, isn't that being selfish if I'm only thinking about myself? Well, there's actually quite a spectrum between being selfish and being a zealot. What's the A word that I'm thinking of? What's someone who, a zealot altruist, right, on the other end. So how could we find our way in the middle? And there's a difference between being aggressive and being what's the other A word? There's authentic and assertive. That's the word. Yes. Thank you for helping me complete my sermon here. And yeah, it's asking for help, right? Whenever you're stuck, and being authentic and being vulnerable. All of those are other ways of being not nice. But guess what? Sometimes it is the kindest thing we could do for ourselves and for others. So that's how I make the distinction between nice and kind. Capiche? All right. So go ye therefore, and not be nice, but rather be kind to one another, and be kind to yourself. And let us all not seek after the rewards that some creepy guy who knows when we're sleeping and who knows when we're awake is going to give us this holiday season. But the greatest gift we could give to one another is the gift of our authenticity, the gift of our presence, and the gift of being not nice.